Tron Ares is a pretty fun movie. It's not the best movie in the world. It's probably not the worst movie in the world either. In this video, I'm going to give you guys a quick spoiler-free review, and then I'll go on to some of the spoilers, and I want to talk about some of the philosophy of Tron, Tron Legacy, and especially Tron Ares. Welcome to Truth Suffers. This is a channel where we find truth and wisdom through science fiction and fantasy. So let's jump in with a spoiler-free review of Tron Ares. Now, like I said, Tron Ares is a fun movie. Do you need to know all the Tron lore going in? Yeah, you really should. And is it the best of the Tron movies? Nah, not really. Is it fascinating and visually awesome? Yes, totally. Is the acting good? Nah, not really. And the dialogue was pretty bad too, so it's kind of hard to tell if it was the acting or the writing. A lot of the lines are sort of blurted out super quick, so I don't know if they were redubs or what, but the delivery was definitely off on a lot of scenes. But the visuals might just make up for that stuff. The score was pretty cool, nowhere near the Tron Legacy Daft Punk score, but it was cool. Nine Inch Nails did a alright job, but the bar was set so unbelievably high that they couldn't have reached it. So overall, I think if you're a Tron fan, you're going to really enjoy the movie. There were some fun callbacks to Tron Legacy, but even more callbacks to the 1982 Tron, which was really cool, and surprisingly so. Explicitly tying Tron Ares back to the original Tron explains some of the hokiness. I mean, it was the 1980s. It was hokey, and if we're intentionally hitching our wagon back to it, then we should expect some hokey stuff. It also opens up lots of new grids instead of being bound to one secret grid in Flynn's basement hideaway. Recall that in the first movie, every program in every computer was personified. That was the big science fiction what if of the story. That is, what if the insides of computers were more like civilizations and if programs were like people? What would it be like to go into that kind of simulated world? So Tron Ares brings back that corporate espionage motif, and we get to see some personified adversarial programs breaking into rival company networks to steal data and to do battle with digital security system warriors. It's pretty awesome. So it's a fun action movie with some callbacks to the original, with the wonderful aesthetics of the second movie, and which explores some new territory. I had a great time watching it, except for any of the Seth Flores parts. He was supposed to be the funny, ironic tension breaker, but his character almost ruined the movie. He was not a good comic relief. He was pretty poorly written, and why was his delivery always so forced in every scene? Maybe he's a great actor, but man, I could have done without this actor in this role in this movie. Anyways, Tron nerds should see the movie. Non-Tron nerds should watch Tron Legacy. Then maybe try to watch Tron, though it can be pretty difficult because it's a 1980s movie. Then go watch Tron Ares, but you should probably have some background info on the Tron universe beforehand. Alright, so let's jump in with some of the philosophy of Tron and some more spoilers for Tron Ares. Tron as science fiction. In his essay on science fiction, literally titled On Science Fiction, C.S. Lewis discusses the ever-distancing of fantasy worlds. That is, as our planet becomes more and more explored, as the mapped territory grows and the unknowns shrink, we must move our fantasy world out further and further. Once upon a time, we were able to put fantasy realms with giant apes and lizards just over there on an undiscovered island, or just past that turn deeper back in the Amazon rainforest. But as our planet became more and more known, we had to put our fantasy worlds on other planets, accessible only through special spacecraft, or we had to hide them in another universe, accessible only by special portals, or put them far into the future or deep into the past to be accessed only through special time machines. But Tron has put a really fascinating science fiction twist on the wholly different fantasy world. It's not way out there in the universe, nor is it hidden in a different universe, nor do we need to travel far into the future to find it. It's actually right here in the room with us. It's inside our computers, and presumably our smartphones. The Tron fantasy world is the digital world. The aliens are the programs operating in cyberspace, and the futuristic alien tech is just the everyday coded functions which help the programs carry out their duties. It's genius. So the fantasy world of Tron is the grid. And you don't need a mystical spell to enter. You don't need to wait for any special moon phase, nor do you need a spaceship or a time machine. You just need a particle laser. What is that? Well, the Tron world is a soft science fiction story, so you don't really need to know the mechanics of the pretend science at play here. The particle laser is just a ray gun that zaps you down into a digital form and sucks you into the computer world, the grid, which I take to be the shared cyberspace connected via the internet and not just Kevin Flynn's pocket universe from Tron Legacy. The particle laser is a good use of what C.S. Lewis calls the science fiction machine. Its job is just to satisfy our critical intellects enough to move us on with the story. We need some way for the characters to get in and out of the grid. So we have a laser gun that digitizes and then undigitizes the characters. In Tron Ares, we also have a 3D printing function in one of the instantiations of the particle laser so that the grid tech and the AI persons can be brought into this world without straining our credulity too much. They even have to break out of that extra resin-esque stuff after being 3D printed. Nostalgia factor. So many movies and shows today press the nostalgia button ad nauseum. Literally, it'll make you nauseous. But Tron Ares doesn't press that button too much, which is a big relief. We do get to see some fun 80s throwbacks, like the return of the floating cutesy bit that can only reply with yes or no, which is binary. And we see that bit when Ares enters into the old copy of Kevin Flynn's first walled garden grid, and we get to see an updated CGI look at the classic light cycles. We likewise get a throwback end-of-line quote and a cool reversal of the Master Control giant face motif. Instead of the Master Control being a giant floating face yelling at programs, the situation is subverted to have Julian Dillinger's face floating as the monster who threatens the humanoid Master Control, Ares, who is played by Jared Leto. There are some homages to other movies as well. There was a bit of a Terminator vibe with Athena chasing Eve up the parking garage ramp, which was actually pretty tense and fun. There was a Blade Runner Tears in Rain vibe with Ares having feelings or maybe his first qualia at the sight of Rain. And then Rain also somehow woke up Athena later on in the movie as well. We have a Jeff Bridges cameo, which I thought was really well done. And it was especially well done because they didn't undo the outcome of Tron Legacy by bringing Kevin Flynn back from the dead. His self-sacrifice in the second movie still means something. He is actually gone. But a digital copy of himself from the first movie in the 1980s, or perhaps a copy from just after that first movie, still remains in the Pocket Universe grid on Flynn's old computer in the NCOM building. Maybe that digital avatar is like an unfallen clue. So don't think about it too hard. It's Jeff Bridges as a sage Jeff Bridges, and it's great. This digital copy of Flynn achieved sage stage and was able to act as a spirit guide to Ares, helping him find the permanence code and become a real boy. It's a good exemplification of that Pinocchio-type myth. The only homage I missed seeing was the absolutely ridiculously thick giant security door, which appeared both in Tron and Tron Legacy. How could they forget about that character? Let's see that giant door. So why is it called Tron Ares? Tron Ares is named such for two reasons. Firstly, the new Master Control program is named Ares because he's meant to be Julian Dillinger's master of war against his rival video game / AI tech company conglomerate NCOM. And secondly, because it's all about war between those two rival companies. So it's named for the new Tron hero and for the theme of the movie. Julian Dillinger is the grandson of Edward Dillinger, the evil CEO from the 1982 Tron, and he's at war with the new CEO of NCOM, who is just some girl who rose up through the ranks of NCOM with her sister. There's no tie to the Flynn family, unfortunately. I really wanted to see a connection back to Sam Flynn, the hero of Tron Legacy. But I guess at least they hint at a unification of Tron Legacy and Ares in a post-credit scene with a picture of Sam and Cora. We need to bring back Sam. Subverting the control problem. Tron Ares subverts the control problem concern in the philosophy of artificial intelligence. The control problem can get pretty complicated, but at its core, it's just the problem of making sure we don't get runaway artificial intelligence that kills or enslaves all of humanity. How do we make sure we don't lose control of AI? The related alignment problem asks something like this. How can we ensure that the goals of AI remain aligned with human flourishing? Most AI science fiction stories exploit the control problem and the sub-problem of alignment. Either the AI turns evil, or it misinterprets its commands, resulting in deleterious, accidental, maniacal schemes that threaten humanity as a whole, or even the entire planet Earth. But Tron Ares flips the script, and it's kind of refreshing, even if implausible. Ares starts out as an evil warrior and becomes good. He's a runaway AI system, but the commands he militates against are actually evil commands, and as he becomes unaligned with them, he becomes more virtuous. He even sacrifices his own life for a lesser program on the strike team, and then later he tries to sacrifice his final spawned life to save Eve from Athena, but Eve saves him instead by digitizing him into the 1982 Pocket Universe grid. So the machinations of the tech bro programmer are wicked from the start, and becoming unaligned with them is the best thing for Ares and for humanity. Along the way, Ares learns that being human is hard, and that love resists analysis. He can't explain why he loves things like Depeche Mode, he just does. The sentiment is something like, if I could explain the attributes that make me love something, then maybe I actually love those attributes and not the thing possessing them. Better to just love the thing and not be able to say why I do. Now, I need to think more deeply about this sentiment before pronouncing on it. I think it's probably not accurate, but I at least understand the motivation. But back to Tron Ares. The subversion of the control problem is summed up from a line spoken by Eve towards the end of the movie. Maybe what emerges from the unknown won't be so scary. In context here, it's maybe AI won't kill us all, and maybe it'll be super chill and have highlights in its hair and will travel the world on a motorcycle. LOL. It's a hopeful take on the runaway AI problem that doesn't happen all that often today, and it's totally naive, but it's not played out at least. Maybe we saw this with Vision in the MCU, but still he was fighting the runaway of runaway AI systems, Ultron. So that story is still largely about runaway, uncontrolled AI. This sentiment that what emerges from the unknown won't be so scary, AI won't be so bad, it's the sentiment of many, maybe most, of the big thinkers at the companies who are actively pursuing AGI right now, that is, artificial general intelligence. But we don't often see it portrayed in science fiction. The message of Tron Ares. I think the writers may have been trying the spaghetti at the wall approach here. Here are some of the noodles that they threw against the wall that I'm not sure really stuck. I won't treat these in any particular order, but here's the first one. They had this thread about Rain awakening AI to feelings and maybe conscious awareness, but then they didn't really develop that any further. There also might have been a warning against whiny, self-serving tech bros who would burn the world down just for their own vainglory. We saw this theme in James Gunn's Superman earlier this year when Lex would rather rip apart reality than live in reality with Superman. There was also the subversion of the control problem / runaway AI motif. Again, this sentiment is something like, well, actually, the strong ASI, artificial superintelligence, isn't the end of us all, but instead a friend of humanity who doesn't need to be controlled to be aligned with our flourishing. Then there's the related subversion of the Frankenstein's monster motif. Throughout the movie, Ares finds strength in a quote from Frankenstein that says, "I am fearless and therefore powerful." Dr. Frankenstein is the monster, Julian Dillinger, and the monster is a friend who is learning to be human. But that quote alone was meant to do a lot of heavy lifting, and I don't think it actually did that. Another noodle that didn't quite stick to the wall is existentialism, which is basically existence precedes essence. This sentiment goes, we need to exercise our free will to override our preset controls, and only then can we start to become who we really are. Only then can we start discovering our essence. Ares basically says as much to the dying Athena before she's de-rezzed at the end of the movie. He doesn't know what he'll do now that he's not following directives, and that's the whole point. He's free. His resistance to the man or the evil dictator god, his creator, has set him free, which actually sounds like something the devil might say, so yikes on that one. And then perhaps there's the main noodle that was meant to stick to the wall. This is something like, beauty and freedom are found in impermanence. Ares was constantly respawned by Julian Dillinger. He went through a grueling series of reincarnations in his training set where he learned to fight. Then he was sent out as an adversarial system and was nuked by friendly fire. Then he was a 3D printout in base reality, in our world, and was killed and de-rezzed many times. But he knew he would always be brought back. Life gained a whole new meaning when he was betrayed by his creator, and Dillinger vowed he would never respawn Ares again. Ares was suddenly down to his final life, and it was then that he began to live. When he received the permanence code from the spirit guide sage Kevin Flynn, Flynn says it should actually be called the impermanence code because there is nothing permanent about life. I think that's meant to be the biggest philosophical lesson of the movie. It's the scarcity of life makes it valuable theme that folks like Lex Friedman and many nice nihilists are always banging on about. And it's at least a subtle dig at the idea of everlasting or eternal life. The thought is everlasting life would be boring. We need to know that there's an end, blah, blah, blah. The Good Place did this with their view of heaven as well when they added an annihilation door which you could step through and cease yourself into oblivion. So I think they sort of threw a bunch of ideas and sentiments at the wall and were hoping profundity would stick. I don't think anything profound actually stuck at all, but it was still an enjoyable science fiction movie. You don't have to agree with the message to enjoy it. It would be nice if there was a clearer message and less pastiche, but I think I still enjoyed it a lot. I am a big Tron fan though, so maybe I'm biased. The message of Tron Legacy, however, is much clearer. It goes something like this. There are many kinds of legacy. The most valuable is your children and the people you invest in. Kevin Flynn is a creator many times over. He created his own digital world, his grid. He created a digital copy of himself, his own image bearer, Clue, to help him further create, form, and rule his digital world. He created other digital beings and cities and landscapes and governments and laws. He also inadvertently created a new form of life, the ISOs, digital life that simply emerged out of the grid because the conditions were right for life. He invented an entire new form of persons, a new image bearer that wasn't merely a program, but was on par with himself, presumably achieving a level of sentience which is due inalienable rights. And he created a son, Sam Flynn, with his wife. The whole entire message of the film is summed up in Kevin Flynn's final act. My son is worth more than my entire digital creator legacy. Kevin Flynn easily throws away his life's work to save his son, and when Clue, his shadow self, screams, "Why?" Kevin Flynn only has one answer to offer. He's my son! Clue had no frame of reference for the heart behind Kevin Flynn's battle cry. Why? Because Kevin Flynn didn't understand legacy when he first copied himself in the form of Clue. So since he didn't know it then, Clue didn't know it either. And he couldn't learn it either because he was operating on a misunderstood directive from his creator. That is, to make the perfect world. Kevin Flynn, however, did come to learn that his son is his greatest legacy through years of reflection as he lived the life of an exile in his own digital world, always on the lam, being hunted by his own digital image bearer. When he was reunited with Sam, he knew instantly that he'd do whatever it took to free Sam from the underworld of the grid. Kevin Flynn also works hard to free Quora, the last of the ISOs. Again, the ISOs being the emergent digital life forms. He works to free her from the grid to go and be with Sam in base reality and change the way the world sees life. She too is a part of his legacy, but notice that she and Sam are the products of natural processes, not the result of Kevin Flynn's direct, hands-on, meticulous, special creation. Quora and the other ISOs simply emerged. They manifested like a flame after the right conditions were set in place for life. But Flynn didn't expect any of this, and presumably he didn't know what exactly those parameters were. He accidentally tapped into some deeper mind-making or soul-making or some other Elan Vital-making metaphysical principles. Flynn wasn't responsible for setting up those metaphysical laws, which gave rise to the ISO race of digital life forms, those digital persons. Likewise, Flynn isn't responsible for the processes that gave rise to his own son, Sam. Those biological laws which rule over mitosis were there long before Flynn and will continue long after. So his most precious legacy items are two things which came about through his actions, but which didn't wholly depend on him. That's instructive. But the main thrust is this. The legacy that matters most is the people you care for and impact, like Quora, who Flynn discipled, and Sam, his son, who is his son. Work is cool, but if it comes down to a decision between your work and your son, it's better to pull the ripcord on your entire life's work than to let that work swallow your son. Choose people over career. Make your legacy the people you've invested in and not the projects you've completed. Give your life for your children. Alright, so there it is. There's my take on Tron Ares and some of the Tron expanded universe. I'm kind of bummed that the movie's not doing well because I think that's not good for the Tron expanded universe. We probably aren't going to get another Tron movie for another 20 years and it'll be a complete reboot. So that's a major bummer. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. I want to hear, did you watch the movie? Did you like it? Did it compare at all to Tron Legacy or the original? What's the best Tron thing? And maybe is it the Disney show? I actually really enjoyed that one as well. All right, so if you learned something, definitely leave me a comment, leave me a like, and make sure you subscribe to catch all my future videos.